Hello everyone, welcome to our third session. First of all, I will give you a mini lecture on Yuan's decline and early Ming China. So I put a chronology of Ming and Qing here. If you need it, you can go back to our files on UB-Learns to find these slides. The Ming Dynasty was the ruling dynasty of China following the collapse of the Mongol-led Yuan dynasty. So here is a Yuan China map. You can see all these areas, the lands under the rule of the Yuan dynasty include Outer Mongolia area. The Ming dynasty was the last imperial dynasty in China, ruled by ethnic Han Chinese. The Han Chinese are an East Asian ethnic group. They constitute the world's largest ethnic group. You all know that the Mongols are another East Central Asian ethnic group, and they built the Mongol Empire in the 13th century. And also we are going to talk about another nomadic ethnic group in the Qing dynasty. Here is a map of Yuan China. So we can see in the Yuan dynasty, the Mongol Empire controlled large regions of East Asia. This is the Yellow River, and this is the Yangtze River. And we are going to focus on the Yellow River and catastrophes around this region. By the early 1300s, Mongol control of China was weakening under the ineffective successors of Hubei Han. Mongol power was enfeebled by chronic feuding within the imperial clan and pressure from rival clans, so there were rebellions between these Mongolian nobles. By 1330, there was open civil war. And also we discussed the impact of the Little Ice Age in the first lecture. The Yuan dynasty also experienced the early stage of the Little Ice Age. Beginning in 1333, successive drought-induced famines wrecked northern China, worsened by unchecked flooding in the Yellow River, where the dikes had been neglected. People in the Yuan and Ming could not understand these climate and social changes in this way, for they experienced them episodically, often disastrously, as they were unfolding. Historians find that every 3 to 7 years in this era, intensely bad weather and large-scale human catastrophe would happen. These episodes shaped life and memory of Yuan-Ming dynasties. Now let's pay attention to the Yellow River. So here, this is the Yellow River, its root in the Yuan dynasty. And this is the Great Canal, built in the Tang dynasty several centuries ago. In the summer of 1344, the Yellow River began to shift its course, breaking through the dikes into the areas of west and northwest Shandong and eventually establishing a new course flowing into the sea north of the peninsula. So from the second map, we can see that the Yellow River changed its routes so many times in China's history. So this is the route in the Han dynasty, this was the route in the Song dynasty, and this was the route in the Song and Yuan dynasties, and this is the final route in the Ming-Qing dynasty, and this is the modern river. Previously, the Yellow River had joined its water with the Huai from here. After the change of course in 1344, repeated droughts afflicted the Huai River Valley in northern Henan, northern Anhui, and Jiangsu region. This region. So to the north of the afflicted region, flooding made the Grand Canal impassable. The impact was devastating both for the peasants of the area as well as the leaders of the Yuan Empire. The Yuan dynasty was waning, and the emperor forced enormous teams to build new embankments for the river. The terrible conditions helped to fuel rebellions that led to the founding of the Ming dynasty. So this is another picture, a large picture. And this is the Central Plain region. So here is the Yellow River. This is the area on the lower reaches of the Yellow River since the beginning of recorded history, as we learned, probably in previous history classes. The Central Plain has been an important site for Chinese civilization. Because of the Yellow River, this area also experienced natural disasters, social and economic disorders every couple of decades. The area affected by drought was a center of popular resistance to Yuan rule. Again, this red part. This region had been devastated by the Qing invasions of the 1120s. A century later, it was exposed to the full force of the Mongol conquest, thus deriving little benefit from the more moderate course introduced between the 2060s and the 2090s by Hubei Han as he completed the Mongol conquest of China. These natural catastrophes, social and economic disorder, give rise to rumors and prophecies. I'm going to discuss two leaders of peasants' rebellions, and both of them were from this area, including the founder of the Ming dynasty. So on the right side is a picture showing people in this region experiencing catastrophes. So here is a scenario of storms. You probably could not see it very clear from this slide. Many Chinese interpreted these natural disasters as portents of divine displeasure and the loss of the mandate of heaven by the Yuan dynasty. The mandate of heaven is a Chinese political doctrine used since ancient times to justify the rule of the king or emperor of China. According to this belief, heaven embodies the natural order and will of the universe. The heaven gives the mandate to a just ruler of China as the son of heaven. If a ruler was overthrown, this was interpreted as an indication that the ruler was unworn and had lost the mandate. It was also a common belief among citizens that natural disasters, such as famine and flood, were signs of heaven's displeasure with the ruler. So there would often be revolts following major disasters, as citizens saw these as signs that the mandate of heaven had been withdrawn. Banditry and rebellion spread rapidly in nearly every province, and the rebel leaders vied for heaven's mandate in efforts to eliminate their rivals. Many rebel groups were aided by or belonged to secret societies, which recruited supporters from poor peasants and drew on anti-Mongol sentiment. The most important of these was the White Lotus, a Buddhist sect originating in the Southern Song period that consistently opposed the ruling dynasty and hence had to remain secret with its own private rituals. You probably have heard about Confucianism, Buddhism, Taoism, and other religions in East Asian society. But I have to remind you that most of the materials on these religions were for literacy elites. However, for the poor peasants, people in poverty, Their life was very different from the image described by the official records. The White Lotus was a religious and political movement that appealed to many Han Chinese people who found solace in worship of unborn Venerable Mother. This is an image of the unborn Venerable Mother. The mother was to gather all her children at the millennium into one family. The doctrine of the White Lotus also included elements from Buddhism and Manichaeism. The White Lotus emphasized the strict vegetarianism and permitted men and women to interact freely, which was socially shocking. White Lotus was not a single religion. There was the White Lotus ideal, basically little more than the claim to be imitating the ideal of a White Lotus society. This doctrine is kind of millenarianism. So millenarianism is the belief by a religious, social, or political group or movement in a coming fundamental transformation of a society after which all things will be changed. For example, some people of Christianity, they believed that there's gonna be a final trial, and also some people expected the second coming, and the second coming is very near, and that there will be an establishment of a kingdom of God on earth. So those are elements of millenarianism. Religion with this thought claimed that the current society and its rulers are corrupt, unjust, or otherwise wrong. They therefore believe they will be destroyed soon by a powerful force. We can imagine this kind of thought is appealing to oppressed peoples. In time of trouble, the White Lotus leaders preached of the coming of the Buddha and of the establishment of a new dynasty. Its supporters, bound by blood ceremonies and claiming magical powers, came from an impoverished peasantry. So here is another picture of the White Lotus. Actually, it happened in the following dynasty, the Qing dynasty. Qing officials are arresting members of a secret society. Here, look at the image. This is the image of the goddess on the walls. So apparently, the government in the following dynasties gradually realized that the White Lotus secret societies could be very rebellious elements of the society. During the rerouting of the Yellow River, a peasant named Han Shantong from the Central Plains area tried to mobilize followers among the liberals working on the project of building embankment of the Yellow River. He undoubtedly exploited the existing rumors of the ideal White Lotus Society's coming and claimed to have found a stone image with only one eye and a prophecy inscribed on its back. Han proclaimed that the empire was in great disorder. Maitreya Buddha shall descend to be reborn, and the King of Light shall appear in this world. His rebellion finally failed, and Han Shantong was arrested and eventually executed. So here is an image. This is a modern depiction of another rebellion, the Red Turban Rebellion. The Red Turban Rebellion was an uprising influenced by the White Lotus Society between 1351 to 1368. The name Red Turban was used because of their tradition of using red banners and wearing red turbans to distinguish themselves. There is one article on Red Turban following this mini lecture, and I hope you to finish reading that article. Now, I'm going to talk about Zhu Yuanzhang, the founder of the Ming Dynasty. He was born into a family of desperately poor tenant farmers in the Huai River Plain in October 1328, still the same region I mentioned in previous slide. In his early life, he lost most of his family to famine and was raised in a monastery where he learned to read and write and acquired unique organizational skills. These skills assisted him greatly in his battle for supremacy, but also later in managing state affairs. He did not stay in the Buddhist monastery for long, as the monastery ran short of funds, and he was forced to leave. For the next few years, Zhu was a wandering beggar and personally experienced and saw the hardships of the common people. When he was 24 years old, Zhu joined one force of the rebellions against the Mongol. In 1356, Zhu and his army occupied Nanjing, which became his base of operations and the capital of the Ming Dynasty during his reign. Zhu claimed the mandate of heaven and established the Ming Dynasty at the beginning of 1368. Later in the same year, his army occupied the Yuan capital, Beijing. So this is a portrait of Zhu Yuanzhang. So it is said he's an extremely ugly person. So my question here, is this a realistic portrait? So here is another map of the Yuan dynasty. So this is the capital of Zhu Yuanzhang, Nanjing, very close to Shanghai. Shanghai is here. And this is the capital of the Yuan dynasty, Beijing. In the first half of his life, Zhu Yuanzhang was able to attract many talents into his service. For instance, one advisor suggested him, quote, "Build high walls, stall operations, and don't be too quick to call yourself a king." End quote. Zhu started to build the city wall of Nanjing. It took 21 years to complete and used 200,000 laborers to move 7 million cubic meters of earth. The city wall of Nanjing was among the largest city walls ever constructed in China. The enclosed Nanjing city is about 55 square kilometers. So this is the whole map of the city wall of Nanjing. This is a photo of Nanjing, I think in early 20th century. And these are another two photos of Nanjing. Now, it's a very beautiful city. So I went to college in Nanjing. If you got an opportunity to travel in China, I suggest you visit this city and enjoy foods there. Zhu Yuanzhang also built Ming Great Wall to resist the nomadic people from the north. The Ming Great Wall forms the most visible parts of the Great Wall of China today. A comprehensive archaeological survey using advanced technologies has concluded that the Ming walls measure 80,850 kilometers, which is about 5,500 miles from Jiayu Pass. Jiayu Pass is here. From the Jiayu Pass in the west to the sea in Shanghai Pass. So this is the Ming Great Wall. Shanghai Pass is here. The Great Wall looping over to terminate in Manchuria at the Hushan Great Wall. This is made up of 6,259 kilometers, which is about 3,889 miles sections of actual wall, 223 miles of trenches, and 1,387 miles of natural defensive barriers such as hills and rivers. While the Ming walls are generally referred to as Great Wall, in modern times, in Ming times, they were called border barriers by the Chinese. Here is another picture of the Great Wall. You must have seen these pictures again and again in travel menus. Zhu Yanzhang was a paranoid person and only trusted in his family. He believed that in order to strengthen the absolute imperial authority, he had to be harsh. He trusted violence in seizing and ruling the realm and power in subduing people. He slaughtered many high officials. Some of the high officials were executed on the grounds of plotting rebellion, conspiracy on going beyond their authority. Some of them did not know what crimes they committed, even at the time of death. Zhu thus created an environment in which officials were all flustered and in nervous circumstances all day long. I will also talk about the third emperor Yongle and Zheng He. So Yongle means perpetual happiness. He was the emperor who moved the capital from Nanjing to Beijing. And here is Zheng He. This is a statue from a modern monument to Zheng He in Malacca City, Malaysia. Zheng He was originally born in a Muslim family in 1371. He was captured by the Ming armies when he was 10 years old. A general took Zheng He and he was soon castrated, sent to serve in the household of Zhu Di, the Yongle Emperor. At that time, the Yongle Emperor was still a prince. They got along well with each other and became good friends. The young eunuch eventually became a trusted advisor to the prince and assisted him. Zheng He accompanied the prince in military campaigns in his early years. Between 1405 and 1433, the Ming government sponsored 7 naval expeditions. The Yongle Emperor designed them to establish a Chinese presence and impose imperial control over the Indian Ocean trade. He also wanted to impress foreign peoples in the Indian Ocean basin and extended the empire's tributary system. It has also been inferred from passages in the history of Ming that the initial voyages were launched as part of the emperor's attempt to capture his escaped predecessor, which would have made the first expedition the largest scale manhunt on water in the history of China. Yongle, the emperor, he was particularly aggressive and personally led major campaigns against the Mongolia tribes to the north and west. He also wanted those in other countries to beware of China's power and to perceive it as the strong country he believed it had been in earlier Chinese dynasties. He thus revived the traditional tributary system. In the traditional tributary arrangement, countries on China's borders agreed to recognize China as their superior and its emperor as lord of all under heaven. These countries regularly give gifts of tribute in exchange for certain benefits, like military posts and trade treaties. In this system, all benefited, with both peace and trade assured. So this is a map of Zheng He's expeditions. You can see his different exploration routes from China to the Southeast Asia, South Asia, West Asia, and East Africa from 1405 to 1433. This is a model comparing Zhenghe's treasure ship with Columbus' flagship, the Santa Maria. Early European explorers to China, they were amazed by how much larger the Chinese ships were than their counterparts in the West. But all the ships, from this picture, we can see that the ships of Columbus and the Gama would have fit on the deck of Zhenghe's largest ship. For centuries, historians thought stories of enormous Chinese ships had to be exaggerations, but in 1962, workers unearthed a 36-foot-long wooden steering posted in a trench in the Yangtze River in Nanjing. I also post another link of YouTube video, and you can see from that link the technology of building Zhenghe's treasure ships. Thank you so much for listening to today's lecture.